5. France. France, the largest country in Western Europe, has long been a gateway between the continent's northern and southern regions. Its lengthy borders touch Germany and Belgium in the north, the Atlantic Ocean in the west, the Pyrenees Mountains and Spain in the south. Wide fertile plains dominate most of the north and west, making France the agricultural epicenter of Europe. The sprawling, forested plateau of the Massif Central, a range of ancient mountains and extinct volcanoes, occupies France's southern interior. France is one of the oldest nations on Earth and the most ethnically diverse country in Europe. These deep and broad influences have made France a world leader throughout history in nearly all aspects of culture, including cuisine, winemaking, politics, philosophy, music, art, film, fashion, literature, and sports. France has ample land area to provide habitat for a wide variety of plants and animals. More than 25% of its territory is covered with forest, and another 50% is countryside or farmland. Lowland forests are home to deer and wild boar, while the woodlands of the Alps and Pyrenees provide refuge for rare chamois antelope, ibex, brown bears, and alpine hares, among many other species. The Mediterranean coastline is a stopover of millions of migrating African birds, including flamingos, vultures, egrets, and bee-eaters. The French government has made a broad commitment to preserving open spaces and the wildlife they contain. About 10% of the country has been set aside as national or regional parklands and nature reserves. 4. Switzerland. Switzerland is a small mountainous country located in Central Europe. This landlocked country is about the size of New Jersey and is between France and Italy. It is also bordered by Austria, Germany, and Liechtenstein. Most of the population lives in the plateau, which is between the high Alps in the south and the Jura Mountains in the north. The mountainous area in the south is sparsely populated. Switzerland is one of the world's wealthiest countries. The Swiss are well known for their watches and clocks. There is not a single official language in Switzerland. People speak one of several languages, including Swiss German, French, and Italian. The Swiss Alps are high, snow-covered mountains, most of which are over 13,000 feet, 4,000 meters. The most famous peak is the Matterhorn, which is 14,692 feet, 4,478 meters, tall. But the highest peak is Dufourspitz at 15,203 feet, 4,634 meters. Scientists are concerned that glaciers in the Swiss Alps have lost a lot of ice coverage in the past 40 years. This may be related to global climate change. Rapid melting of the glaciers could cause flooding to the villages below. Most animals in Switzerland live in the mountains. The ibex, a species of mountain goat, was hunted to near extinction in the early 1800s. The species has since been reintroduced, and more than 15,000 ibex now live in the Swiss Alps. Hikers may also encounter chamois, another goat-like animal, and marmots. The forests of Switzerland are also home to deer, rabbits, foxes, badgers, squirrels, and many bird species. 3. Canada. Canada is a vast and rugged land. From north to south, it spans more than half the northern hemisphere. Canada is a vast and rugged land. From north to south, it spans more than half the northern hemisphere. From east to west, it stretches almost 4,700 miles, 7,560 kilometers, across 6 time zones. It is the second largest country in the world, but it has only 0.5% of the world's population. Canada features black-blue lakes, numerous rivers, majestic western mountains, rolling central plains, and forested eastern valleys. The Canadian Shield, a hilly region of lakes and swamps, stretches across northern Canada and has some of the oldest rocks on Earth. Canada's far north lies in the frozen grip of the Arctic, where ice, snow, and glaciers dominate the landscape. Few trees grow here, and farming is not practical. Native Canadians, called First Nations people, live in this region by hunting and fishing. In some ways Canada is many nations in one. Descendants of British and French immigrants make up about half the population. They were followed by other European and Asian immigrants. First Nations peoples make up about 4% of the population. Inuit people live mostly in the Northwest Territories and Nunavut. Many Native Canadians live on their traditional lands, but many others have moved to cities across Canada. First Nations artwork is widely recognized and is seen as a symbol of Canadian culture. Canada's remote north and extensive forests are home to wildlife, from bears, wolves, beavers, deer, mountain lions, and bighorn sheep to smaller animals like raccoons, otters, and rabbits. The country's lakes and rivers, which contain about 20% of all fresh water on Earth, are full of fish such as trout and salmon. Canada's prairies in the south are home to bison and pronghorn antelope. Farther north are Canada's sprawling evergreen forests, which have lots of wildlife, including moose and black bears. Even farther north is the cold, bare tundra, where herds of caribou and muskox live. Canadians work hard to protect the native wildlife. Canada has 41 national parks and 3 marine conservation areas. Nevertheless, species like wolves, lynx, and Atlantic fish have been overhunted and overfished. 2. Italy. Italy is a boot-shaped peninsula that juts out of southern Europe into the Adriatic Sea, Tyrrhenian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and other waters. Italy is a boot-shaped peninsula that juts out of southern Europe into the Adriatic Sea, Tyrrhenian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and other waters. Its location has played an important role in its history. The sea surrounds Italy, and mountains crisscross the interior, dividing it into regions. The Alps cut across the top of the country and are streaked with long, thin glacial lakes. From the western end of the Alps, the Apennines Mountains stretch south down the entire peninsula. West of the Apennines are wooded hills that are home to many of Italy's historic cities, including Rome. In the south are hot, dry coastlands and fertile plains where olives, almonds, and figs are grown. Since the rise of the Roman Empire, Italian art, architecture, and culture have had an influence around the world. Famed Italian painters include Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Italy is also at the heart of the Catholic Church, which is governed from Vatican City, a city-state surrounded by Rome. The family is at the center of Italian society. Young people often live at home until they are in their 30s, even if they have a job. When parents retire, they often go to live with their children. For 22 centuries, Italians and their ancestors have cleared fields, grazed livestock, and hunted wild animals. Forests that once covered large areas are gone. But the country's remote places and many national parks still have wilderness largely untouched by humans. The lower slopes of Italy's Alps are covered with forests. Above these woodlands are meadows that explode with specially adapted wildflowers in the spring. Throughout Italy, millions of birds stop to rest during their annual migration to Africa. 1. New Zealand. New Zealand is a remote, mountainous group of islands in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. The two main islands, North and South Islands, are separated by the Cook Strait. Australia, its nearest neighbor, is 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, away. The islands were created just 23 million years ago when land was thrust out of the ocean by volcanic forces. New Zealand has more than 50 volcanoes, some of which are still active today. Sharp snowy peaks, rocky shores, and pastures create a majestic landscape. The South Island is home to the highest mountain peak in New Zealand, Mount Cook, which rises to 12,316 feet, 3,754 meters, and is called Cloudpiercer by the Maori people. New Zealanders, or Kiwis as they are called, have been shaped by their isolation. Today, most Kiwis are no longer farmers, with 86% of the population living in cities. More people live in the city of Auckland on North Island than the whole population of South Island. The Maori named the country, Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. The Maori culture is widely respected by New Zealanders, and many parcels of land under dispute were returned to the Maori in 1998. Because of its remote location, New Zealand is rich in unusual wildlife not seen anywhere else in the world. Nearly all the land animals are birds, and many of these species have lost the ability to fly. The Maori people and European settlers introduced animals to the islands, and the flightless birds had no defense against them. In the last 1,000 years, half of all animals on the islands have become extinct. Deforestation and draining of swampland is also threatening many remaining species, including the kiwi bird. Fewer than 75,000 wild kiwis remain. Several species are recovering, including the kakapo, kokako, kiwi, and tuatara. Bats are the only land mammals to have made the ocean crossing. Birds and insects, such as the weta, evolved to fill the gap of mammals on the islands. The giant weta, at 2.5 ounces, 70 grams, weighs 3 times more than a mouse. It is a relative of crickets and is considered one of the world's heaviest insects.
Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel.